got to start with dandelion. So I'm just kind of curious, do you have any stories or anything you'd like to share about your love of dandelion?
Well, I do love dandelion.
I knew it.
Oh, absolutely. And I have this real love affair with weedy plants where from one plant you get multiple medicines and multiple foods. And dandelion is perfect there. Mullins like that, burdocks like that. And so here you have dandelion, which of course the young leaves are edible. And by the way, young dandelion leaves are probably more nutritious than anything you're growing in your garden. Everybody sees all the superfoods, the kale. I mean, don't get me wrong, kale's great. Dandelions have a much higher nutritional content, full of minerals and trace elements. I mean, they're just amazing. The crowns are edible. The flowers are edible. You can pick the individual little florets, and not a ton of them, but sprinkle them into omelets, sprinkle them over a salad. They're beautiful, and they're really rich in lutein, which is incredible for your eyes. It's carotenoid. It's really strengthening the eye tissue. So number one, you have the edible component, and then some people take the roots and roast them and make a quote unquote coffee substitute. It tastes nothing like coffee, but it's a pleasant beverage. So number one, you have the edible qualities. Then number two, you have the medicine. And so we have the dandelion root, which is a bitter tonic. And in my opinion, simply the single best liver tonic. And by using the word tonic, a tonic is something that tonifies, normalizes function. So it's not strongly hepatoprotective like a milk thistle or a turmeric or a schizandra, but it tonifies the liver. So for somebody who has basically a healthy liver, but maybe they've been eating a little bit too much fat, and they eat fats and they get kind of queasy biliousness. They have clay-colored stools because dandelion root is a cholagogue and choleretic, stimulates bile secretion from the liver, bile excretion from the gallbladder. It is just a wonderful general liver tonic. Dandelion root also, again, is nutrient dense. It builds blood, so it's used for things like that. In Chinese medicine, it's used to clear blood heat, so that means like infections and things like that. Although in Chinese medicine, they tend to use the roots and the leaves together. Then we move over a little bit, and by the way, dandelion leaf, yeah. So let's move over a little bit and we get to dandelion leaf, which I mostly use separately. And dandelion leaf is my favorite aquaretic. And a lot of people don't know this term. Aquaretic is a shorthand for non-irritating potassium-sparing diuretic. And it is an incredible aquaretic. And so anytime you have somebody who has hypertension, for instance, one of the simplest ways to decrease blood pressure is to reduce the volume of fluids in the body. And dandelion can do it without irritating the kidneys, without depleting potassium. I mean, it does cause you to lose potassium, but the leaves are so full of potassium that there's a net gain of potassium. And again, the leaves are really rich in calcium and magnesium. They build bone. I use it in my formulas for helping to prevent and treat osteoporosis, for enhancing the bone density and the healing of bones, for fractures. And so for me, you have this one plant and we have at least 3 different medicines, 4 different foods coming from a plant that is one of the most reviled plants in the United States, that people spend hundreds of millions or maybe billions of dollars a year trying to eradicate. You want to eradicate dandelions? Eat them. Make medicine out of them. They are amazing. Yeah, the dandelion fluffs, some people think they're Oh, I even forgot. You take the stem of the dandelion. If you have a wart, take the stem, break it off, paint the wart with the white latex. It's not quite as good as celandine, but it often works. I mean, what more can you ask from one plant? And here's the thing. You don't have to water it. You don't have to grow it. The only reason you have to weed it is if you want to use it. To me, it is just this marvelous plant that is so underappreciated, and a little bit of a sort of a kind of a look at just sort of the American view on herbs in general. underappreciated and underrespected for all the benefits that they can bring us. And so dandelion is the poster child for American herbal medicine.
That's why we had to start with that one. That was so beautiful. Thank you, David. A couple follow-up. So we talk about nourishing herbal infusions, and I consume oat straw all the time, nettle all the time, various other standard nourishing herbal infusion herbs. Is there a reason why we don't talk about making nourishing herbal infusions out of dandelion leaf? Is it just too bitter, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you most certainly can. Here's the thing: it is bitter. If you and for food purposes, I suggest people harvest the dandelion leaves as early as possible. So depending on where you are in the country, here it would be probably late March, early April, and they're bitter, but they're less bitter. And if you have, like one part of dandelion, and you have a bunch of other things that are a bit more flavorful, it's quite tolerable to the average person. And I will say that Americans, the bitter is the taste that most Americans love to hate. But over the past 15 years or so, Americans are finally starting to gain a little bit of an appreciation for bitters, especially coming out of the craft beer movement.
Totally.
And realizing that bitters is not something that is necessarily horrible. In fact, it's the most physiologically active taste. It stimulates digestion, absorption, elimination, decreases blood sugar levels, reduces insulin resistance. I mean, it does so many things. So under those circumstances, you certainly could do it. But I think a lot of, when you look at nettles or you look at oat straw and things, or chickweed, things like that, they're so benign tasting that most people, they're not going to find it objectionable. So could you use dandelion leaf? The answer is absolutely yes. And in fact, I did an interview with a wonderful herbalist, Rosalee de Fleuret.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually met Rosalee, I don't know, 15 years ago. We were sitting on the bus together at the International Herb Symposium. We were going on the feature tour, and that's when we met. Wonderful, wonderful person. Anyway, I was a guest on her show, and one of the things I did is I included an herbal spice blend that I use. So not just nourishing decoctions or infusions, but you can also take herbs, and some of the herbs in this are dandelion leaf and nettle leaf and rose hips and onion powder and garlic and oregano. And it's this wonderful spice blend and there's no salt in it whatsoever. Wow. And just sprinkle it again in stews, in over salads, in omelets, and in just so many things. It's great on tofu. I mean, it's just all sorts of things that you can use it with, and it's just a wonderful combination. And I think if people go on her website, probably the recipe for it's still there.
Yeah, I'll definitely link that up. I've also been on Rosalee's show, and we love Rosalee, absolutely.